I am having a really annoying morning. Because this piece is just not, it's really hard. And I feel like I honestly say that a lot, but this one, I just cannot get the color. And I don't have the color, which is fine, but also really annoying. So then I have to make the color with like blending too. But every time I do it, layer after layer, it's wrong. It keeps me wrong. It's not the color. It doesn't look right. I feel like often what I do is make things more contrasted, so like more noticeable, the lights being lighter and the darks being darker, which honestly I think makes it so that's like the hyper-realism thing, like it starts looking like more than real, anyway, so now I'm going through this battle of like too subtle, too obvious. It's the drips, it's the condensation, but it's not the obvious condensation, it's like the blurred. I'll show you in a second, but it's driving me crazy. It's driving me so crazy, and it's endless dots. It's almost like an orange peel, but blurred, and I think more subtle than what I'm doing. So I'll show you. Yeah, it's too green. It's like too obvious, and this actually makes me feel a little sick looking it up close because it's terrible. Over here, like from a distance. I just feel like I can't, there's no breaks. Usually there's like hard bits, and then I get to like a shiny bit or like or a big space, a big wath of color. And there is a big wath of color, but I'm not doing it because our baby is crying upstairs, but because, you know, I'm just trying to go hard. But yeah, this whole glass, it's just like, it's still giving me a headache, metaphorically, not physically. And then I went to another bit and I was like, maybe I just got to come from it from a different angle, because I was coming from the olive down, and now I was like, well, maybe I'll come from the vodka up, and it's just a bitch. Yeah, it's just can't catch a break. Well, I guess gotta pick up the baby now. I don't leave the house for days, and I feel like it's a fine excuse because I have my studio in. Did I just press off? No. Okay, because I have the studio in the house and then also 2 babies, so like night times is out. But I need some more tank tops, singlet tops in Australia. It's crucial because I want my shoulders to be out because it's too hot, but then all the ones I have are cropped, and I don't want like all of them to be cropped, so I need a long tank top. And now living in Byron Bay, I used to be an online whore, and now it's just kind of a waste of time, so I'll just go into a shops like a regional person, like the regional person I am, and the boys are in tow, so Addy! Remember what I said about baby clothes? Overrated! Out for 2025, isn't it? Love. Yes.
Need a nap. Nice to meet you. Lovely to meet you. Really cute.
I got a plan. I've got 3 options really. The first one is to do a tighter grid situation. So have the grid on the photo and then the grid on the drawing, and have it like way smaller. So as like the main problem I'm having is that this kind of pattern of semi-identical but each unique tiny little dots, which are like blurred drips of water, which is like, the problem is that I find the place on the photo and then I start drawing on my paper, and then when I look up to the photo, I'm lost and I can't find where I am again. It takes like a really long time. They're not identifiable enough to be like, oh, it's that one. So that is what's taking me a really long time, and that's the thing that's like breaking my brain. So I could do a grid, whereas I can then see it's like, you know, right next to the line, or, you know, then I'm working on a square that's like, well, probably on the photo it would be like centimeter by centimeter. But it's a bit too late for that because I'm already halfway through the drawing. So like for next time, I could do that. Option 2 is to flip the paper around and start working upside down or from the side or somewhere else. And like my number one rule for anyone who's ever trying to like, give me a tip on how to draw realistically, I'm like, draw what you see, not what is in your brain, not what you think. Because if you draw what you think, then it's wrong. And so I think what I've been doing is like, sometimes with patterns, I feel like you can kind of, no, you actually can't. I feel like you can do this, but you can't. Like in some sections I've done like all the white, all the highlights, and just done like a big run of all these highlights that isn't identical to the photo, because you're like, it doesn't really matter where this water is placed, right? Like it's just water driplets, but it does. It definitely does. That's how I've gotten better at drawing, is like, you can't do any of that. So that's like the lazy part. That's the lazy way to do it. So you've got to draw what's on the photo. So then when you turn it around, you kind of like switches the perspective. So then you're seeing it like from a totally different angle. So you can't kind of keep doing like what you think. You have to then switch it and do like more by the book, by the photo. That's like the whole rule of how to draw like this. And then third option, I was actually watching like a Jeff Koons video, which is crazy, by the way. I didn't even really know that much about his paintings. I knew like his sculptures, but his studio is crazy, so you should check it out. But they use printouts of like really small section of the photos. I use an iPad and then I like zoom in, but maybe that is an option to then start printing these sections. So then I guess it'd be similar to the gridding out section, because you just print out like a tiny bit at a time, and then you know that I'm only drawing within these borders, because you do need reference of seeing like the larger image. If you go too micro, what can happen is you go, well, I go kind of too intense on, say it's like one water driplet. If I go zoom in that much, then I'll probably make the shadows and the highlights like too strong, and then once I zoom out, I'm like, well, now this droplet is like darker than all the rest, where it needs to be like cohesive. So yeah, that would be another option. And I did actually just buy a printer, so maybe I'll do a video on like trying that and see how it works out, to try that method, not like on the iPad, because maybe the iPad changes the color for me as well. Also daylight changes the color all the time, so like working at night is kind of not that good. So I think I'm trying now going upside down, and that's helped, and then like doing as much as I can and then leaving it, turning it upside down, and then going again. And I feel like that sometimes you turn it upside down and you're like, oh, that looks terrible, like way too many like lines to be seen or whatever else. So it's what I'm gonna try. I feel good, I'm determined, and we're gonna get through it.